Hello and welcome to the video of varying quality with various background noises where I explain, finally, how to make my Fishbones prop from Arcane. So I made a pattern and I posted it on Etsy at the Insanity Project if you want to buy it and support my work. If not, just message me on Instagram and I'll send it to you. But it comes with a full-scale blueprint, all the pattern pieces also full-scale, and a very detailed photo and written instruction guide on how to make it. So I started by cutting out all the pieces on varying sizes of foam. For this project, I used half-inch foam. I used some 8mm, 4mm, and 2mm for detailing. It is not that important to use those exactly how I did it. Really, you can use whatever you want, whatever you have access to. You want to make this as cheap and easy as possible. So I'm just starting my trace them all out, and I'll just cut all the pieces out as you normally would with an X-Acto blade. Alright, so you're just going to cut all those pieces out with an X-Acto knife normally, except there's a few pieces I mentioned in the pattern where you're going to want to cut it out with a bevel. So here you can see I'm really slowly cutting with my blade at a probably closer to a 45-degree angle. These are the pieces for the head, and it's going to give it that geometric shape and help it fit together nicer. So just taking 2 passes, you can see the nice bevel edge I got there. If you're having trouble doing this with a knife, you can go in, honestly, with scissors and just hack that corner off, or a Dremel. Alright, so prepping the tube. So we use a shipping tube as a base for the whole prop. It's 30 inches long, 3-inch diameter, and I just start by covering it in a thin layer of 2mm foam. This is totally optional. I just do it because it makes, makes the material more cohesive. It's all foam. We don't want any cardboard sticking out, but again, not that important. So I just use contact cement to glue it down, and I'm using contact cement as my adhesive for pretty much the whole project. Alright, so I'm just starting marking off where each of the base pieces would be, because we need to turn this tube into a base that's more reminiscent of our favorite fish cannon. So there's like this big round circular piece at the top. I'm just cutting off 2 big circles that have the hole cut out of the diameter of the tube, and I'm just connecting them with a strip, so it's like one large object. You can just like layer a bunch of circles too and Dremel it down, but to my pea brain, this was easier when I did it. Alright, very cool. So now I'm cutting out the rib pieces. I call it the ribs. I don't know, it's like those weird lumps. It's ribs. We're going to go with ribs. So I cut them out, and each one I'm using a couple different layers of foam just to build them up and give it more of like a hefty shape and volume. So I'm just tracing out those locations where they're going to go so I can start gluing each layer directly to the base. So I have 5 ribs here, and I'm just tracing them and beginning to glue them. Made them a little too long, so I'm just hacking them off at the top. So it's like super ugly where they connect at the top, but you're not going to see any of that, so do not worry. Imperfections will be hidden, I promise. So I'm starting to layer more and more pieces to build up the shape. For the 1st and 5th rib, I used, about like 5 layers of foam. I used like some half-inch foam, 4mm, and then I'm just cutting off the edges, so when I have to go and like bevel it and sand it down, it's much easier. I'm not like taking off that much foam. Alright, now we're going to begin assembling all the pieces. So here is the head. This is piece A if you're going off the pattern. I'm just connecting it like this. These are all beveled edges, so they connect nicely and have this lovely angle. We're going to connect both sides together. It's a little tricky. These pieces do not, they don't want to go together in this way, but with contact cement, it's so strong, you can really just force it into shape. And then if it's a little funky, you just hit it with a heat gun after and reform it. No problem. Cool. That's what the head should look like, if I don't knock it over. Alright, so next are, I don't even know what these are. These are like little decals. They sit on the lower jaw. So it's basically just like 5 layers of foam, I think, that I have filled it up. The base is 8mm. On my other fish guns, I used a half-inch foam. Really doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with. We just glue that all down. And that's pretty much how you make that. So next is a handle. Handle is I use 3 layers of 8mm foam just to give it a nice base, and it goes on that little thing. Glue that together. Love this excellent sideways video shot. It's contact cement. That's a sneak peek of what it looks like after I dremeled the whole thing and beveled it. All right, so here's the lower jaw. We have teeth, these 2 side pieces, and the jaw base. So I'm just gluing those together and putting them right on the side of the jaw base. And then you can put the teeth on immediately after. I like to take my Dremel to it and give it some more texture and then go back and put the teeth on after. It's just a personal preference. All right, so this is the big cage covering on the gun. So I have a big base, and then the smaller base goes on top, and I start adding the trim and the edges. Goes right on top. The trim I think I used 4mm foam for. You can use, again, 2mm if that's what you have. I really just use whatever I have laying around. No need to make it more expensive of a project than it needs to be. All right, and then I'm going to cut the little holes out. So I'm just taking the pattern and tracing the holes, and then really just hacking that out with a small X-Acto knife. And it looks kind of crusty, but again, a Dremel will fix that. If you don't have a Dremel, you can just hit it with a heat gun, and that'll kind of clean up the edges. All right, this is the top fin. Just adding the trim to it. The trim is just obtained. I don't have that in the pattern specifically as its own piece, but you just take the base and just cut it out. Nothing too fancy. And then this is I don't even know what this is. It's some metal piece. Just attach 3 layers of foam, and then just like I did the handle, I'm just gonna kind of hack off some of that foam to make it easier when I sand it down later. Just like this. Do not cut towards yourself. I cut myself doing this. Just do everything else in this video besides my knife safety. All right, this is piece H. This is towards the end of the base of the tube, towards the final back fin. It's just an extra detail piece, but just like we did before, gluing that trim down. And then there's one other piece that goes with it. Same thing, gluing some detailing, pressing it down. All right, so this is the decal on the lower half of the back fin. So just gluing those edges down, and then you'll see I have the larger fin piece. And I'm going to show you that you can use hot glue for this kind of projects to attach things. I don't recommend it because when you hit it with a heat gun or start dremeling, it's going to melt and get unglued, and that's kind of a pain. And it's not as strong as contact cement, but you can use it if that's what you have and that's what you're comfortable with. Absolutely go for it. All right, so this is the lower back fin. It's these 2 triangle shapes, and I have a beveled edge along the middle, so they fit together and make an angled triangle. So just gluing that together. Again, another nice sideways shot. Love it. Very cool. And then this is the piece that goes on top of it and connects it to the end of the tube. I just cut out little angled bevels at 3 different points to give it more of a geometric shape. And then just glue that down. Sick. That is all the pieces to make it. So we have now assembled every individual piece. Now the big task is connecting it. But first, we sand. So here's a fun sanding compilation. So I'm just taking my Dremel, or small rotary tool, whatever, and just clearing out all those rough edges, making it nice and smooth, giving it more shape. If you pay attention, you can see I did a horrible job at this, but it's fine. Any errors you have, it makes it look more distressed. Do not worry about it. On the head too, I'm just going and smoothing out those corners where the pieces connect, and then adding some detail along the jaw before I put the teeth in. So I'm just taking the tip of my Dremel and shaving it out, giving it some texture. I've seen people do this with a soldering iron too, or you could just take an X-Acto knife and tear it up. Again, does it need to be perfect? This is all distressing and weathering. It's supposed to look rough. Alright, and so finally when everything's done, it's time to take it with a heat gun to close the cells of the foam. And it makes the edges less fluffy and crisper. So hit the edges too, and we will begin the final process. So I'm just attaching the teeth now, and now we're going to attach the head to the base. So you can see I have it around the edge. There's only a small amount of connection just because of the rounded nature of the tube. That's why we're using contact cement, because it is so strong and will hold the whole jaw, even with like a very small amount of surface area. Just gluing that down. Yep, looks a little funny, but we're going to start adding the rest of the pieces. So now I'm just adding, again, the teeth for the lower half of the jaw, and I'm connecting it to these side jaw pieces. So this is what this apparatus looks like, kind of just attaching it directly to the side. Contact cement, just flush with the base. Very cool. And then again, small connection point, but contact cement is incredibly strong and it's going to hold. So that's just going on the bottom half. You can really angle the jaw however you like, but this is the best way it fit for me. Look at that. We are almost complete. Now the handle, I didn't like how the handle stuck out. I found it to be a little bit short, so I just attached with hot glue, because you're not going to see it, a little extra piece of buffer to make it a little longer, and just hot glued that down. Hot glue that you're going to need to wait for it to dry, otherwise it's just going to fall off. Slide right off, but there we go. Alright, so I'm adding this final piece as a base, decorative piece. I don't know how to describe this. Nice little circles, very cool. And then this is the piece at the end that we made earlier. So just gluing that down. Just a side note, if you're using contact cement, please use it outside or in a highly ventilated area. It is not good to breathe in. That's why more people use hot glue, because it's safer. All right, adding the bat fin on. You can see it's at a really weird angle, so there's not a lot of surface area connecting it. You could totally hit it with a hot glue gun in the back to like weld it in there. But yeah, it works. And if you don't like the shape of the foam because you're really stressing it, just hit it with the heat gun and it's going to hold the shape better and have a more natural shape. All right, almost done. So we're adding this base piece. It's rounded at the top to fit the shape of the, whatever this is, the encasing. Leave that down there, and there's a small connection at the top, and it's going to sit on that base piece we put in the middle. So again, small connection, but very strong. And then I just like to tack a part of that down to the widest rib. I'm just using super glue, so that's what I had right there. I would probably use contact cement, but that's what I went with. Works just fine. And do the same thing on the other side, and that's just gonna keep its shape better. All right, final step, we're adding this top fin. And on the top I marked out the spot earlier, and then this little tubing, the foam tube, and that's pretty much the assembly of the entire prop. Hopefully that helped. I did all the hard work, so ideally you don't have to, but let me know. You can find me on Instagram at The Insanity Project. Love to see your pictures of completed products, and let me know if you have any questions. Just throw a nice coat of paint on there, and the prop's pretty much done. Thank you so much for watching.